My name is Zwelihle Banks Nsiiwa, and I'm so excited to be reading a portion of my contribution to the UK published anthology titled Resilience and Reinvention. And my chapter is also titled She Walked Barefooted into Her Destiny. I was born in a big family, the kind where laughter and tension shared the same space. My father, a hard-working farmer and married to 3 wives. My mother, the kindest, most prayerful, and youngest wife, carried a quiet strength that I only came to understand years later. A woman of grace, she had a sense of courage, an ethic for hard work and patience. She was a village girl, born and bred in Plumtree, Malamboga, and her life was spent in the village, farming and taking care of her children. She sacrificed all she had and taught us life lessons that will never depart from us. At 5, life shifted without warning me. Besides, I was too young to understand events of life. I was separated from my mother and sent to live with my aunt. I didn't yet have the language for loss, but I felt it in the silence at night and in the way my small hands searched for hers in my sleep. My mother would no longer lay a hand on my head to bless and speak over my life. I was so used to her declared blessings daily, the routine faded. I had to adjust to the new environment. As young as I was, my aunt had 4 boys who had already left for South Africa in search for greener pastures, and suddenly I was the only girl in the house. Childhood did not leave me gently. By the age of 10, I would fetch water from the well, gather firewood from the forest, wash clothes by the river, and cook meals over an open flame. The 20-liter buckets were heavy, but so was the expectation that I would manage it. In our community, this was normal for a girl. I did not know I was learning resilience. I only knew I had to keep going. One day, 2 of my cousins joined me. We had a pure sisterhood affair. We would share our smiles and sorrows. We took turns in doing chores. At night, we would sit inside a round mud hut that had an open roof for us to see the stars and the moon, singing songs and telling stories we all heard from our mothers. We learned from each other, almost like triplets. We were so close and bonded beautifully. At 13, I turned to my father's homestead. Separating from my cousins was painful, but reuniting with my family was something to shout about. Oh, what a joy. It felt like entering a familiar place that had somehow changed shape. New siblings, new routines, new rules. Nonetheless, I had to fit in again like a puzzle piece being pressed. I began to believe in the endless possibilities. For those few months, I learned from my dad the good things he was doing for the community, including drilling boreholes, ensuring villagers had access to clean water. He had a huge garden where he planted vegetables, and the villagers were the beneficiary of the greens that were grown in our garden. A tractor was purchased for the community to be able to farm a little easier. My farmer was a man with a heart of gold. He also served as a councillor of Ward 1, a combination of small villages in Cholocho, a man who lived his dreams and shared his dreams and visions with others. His love was well lived. But life can be unpredictable. That same year, my father fell ill and passed away. The ground beneath us shifted once more. Grief arrived quietly, then settled in our homestead, yet even in loss. A seed had been planted, the understanding that my story was not finished, even when chapters closed too soon. It was a painful event to witness the loss of a man who stood for the community, provided for the entire village, gave his all for others. Oh, I cried to God and hoped for better days ahead. Borrowed angels. Years later, life led me across borders into Botswana. into a season that felt both hopeful and uncertain. It was years after my secondary school days, where I had walked the path of loss and experienced missing my father. Days looked dark, but hope began to creep in. I had to keep going with renewed zeal against strength to face life head on. Just when I thought I was settling in the new community in Botswana, my older sister, my pillar in a foreign land, became ill. Within a short period, she passed away unexpectedly. The pain and wound in my heart cracked me open, reminding me of my late father and how my mother was going to process that had happened, set like a burden on my shoulders. My sister's absence was loud. She was my best friend, my cheerleader, and a person who believed in me more than myself. She had a way of keeping me afloat, providing for me, and ensuring all I needed was made available. Suddenly, I was responsible not only for my child, but also for her two children. I was in my early 20s, still learning who I was, yet life handed me motherhood in multiples. I experienced bitter days with no other option. I worked as a house helper in Ramoto village, working before sunrise and returning home exhausted after dawn. Some days, hope felt like a distant memory. Loneliness became the order of the day, but grace has a way of appearing when least expected. In the midst of pain, hope kept revisiting my heart. I never ceased to pray and believe in God for better days ahead. I still cannot tell where all the courage I had was coming from, but for some reason, the only friend I could talk to at night was God through prayer. My whisper to his ears was, God, if only I can get the strength for now, hope for the future, and the resources to sustain these children, then I promise to do my best with all my strength, and you will do the rest. I had recently joined a local church, searching for peace and belonging. A church member saw me after church. A smile, calm and welcoming, sat me down and got my details. A female angel sent from God. She started talking to me like a real sister. In no time, I felt I had gained a real sister again. The way she stepped into our lives changed everything for good. She bought food parcels, paid rent in advance, bought the children Christmas clothes, and filled our gas cylinder so we could cook. I learned that sometimes angels don't have wings, but they have willing hearts and the desire to give more than just a smile. I felt alive again. Love, care, comfort, and belonging began to be experienced in my life. With her support, I started saving small amounts of money, as little as $10. Although it felt insignificant at first, each note represented control over my life and future. My community leaders and social workers also extended their hands to assist the children with food parcels, school uniforms, and stationery. While the pain of losing my sister never disappeared, it softened at the edges. We laughed, smiled again. We shared stories at the dinner table. We became a small, unconventional family bond, not only by blood but by spirit. Truly, it was a moment we began to feel the love of God in our home, a little family intertwined by cords of love that cannot be broken. That season taught me that strength does not always arrive as courage. Sometimes it arrives as hope and friendship, as someone knocking on your door with groceries and reminding you that you are not alone. I noticed how real people in this real life face real challenges and are looking for real solutions. The church became my new tribe, holding my hand and giving me hope again. I owe it to God for the gift of community. They held me and led me to the space of peace. The mirror and the mountain. There came a time when I looked at my life and quietly asked myself, is this all there is? I was grateful for work, yet I feared a future where exhaustion became my permanent address. I knew that at the age of 40, I will cease to work like a 20-year-old. I had to look for alternatives for work I could do at 40, and that meant I needed to do something to prepare for the future. One day, an unexpected job opportunity appeared, one I had not even applied for. A church member called me to come meet the pastor for an interview. As I arrived at the church office, the pastor interviewed me and gave me an opportunity to work as a church administration officer. The salary was better, and with it became a renewed sense of responsibility. It was as if a window had opened in a room I thought was sealed shut. Truly, not all closed doors are locked. Sometimes just get the courage to push and the door may open. Imagine a thought that gave me the desire to dream for a better future. I knew nothing about computers, but given a chance, I began to explore Excel, Word, and PowerPoint. I had desire to learn. And so the journey started. I began using the internet to explore educational opportunities. University advertisements felt far-fetched dreams. I knew I had to go back to school, but how? And who was going to pay for my school fees? Nonetheless, I opened that account and committed to serving. Small. Discipline became my closest companion. I walked with boldness towards a new future, and this began to take shape through savings. The first time I saw a significant balance in my account, I stared at the numbers for a long time. It was not just money. It was proof that change was possible. It gave me courage to keep head high. I took my savings and enrolled for a public relations certificate at a local college. I received my certificate and applied for a diploma and advanced diploma in public relations. Balancing work and academia can be exhausting, but I kept my faith. My heart was just waiting for the days of celebration ahead. My mind was so focused. There were nights I studied while fighting sleep, days I attended classes with an empty stomach, and moments when doubt whispered loudly, yet I kept moving forward. Eventually, I pursued a BA honors in broadcasting and journalism through a scholarship I got from the late Dansritato Dr. Limkokwin. He was the founder of Limkokwin University, a man who gave me wings to fly. May his soul rest in peace. There was a time I felt all was gone, when finances nearly stopped me. My prayer to God became this: God, you're too faithful to leave me halfway. You're too consistent to fail me. How can I experience shame when I'm your child? I asked God to shine his light on me. In the midst of it all, I had no idea how things were going to unfold. I just dared to believe in God. But an unexpected scholarship arrived. It felt like heaven was nodding gently and saying, "Continue, girl, you got this." As if that wasn't enough, after my degree, I got another scholarship from UNICEF to pursue my Master of Science in International Business Management. That sounded like a deal too good to be true, but it was a real deal. I completed my Master's in July 2025 with the University of East London. Now, my entire education journey did more than give me qualifications. It gave me a voice. I realized authenticity was not about being loud or perfect, but about staying aligned with the quiet belief that I deserved growth. Each certificate, each exam, each graduation ceremony was a step up a mountain I once thought I could never climb. But look at what grace can do. Look at me now. Look at God. Look at what he can do. a wrinkled head that carried me. One day, I received a call that my mother was unwell. The world paused for a moment. I panicked, not knowing what to do next, while I watched all things around me continue to move. The cars, voices, the ordinary rhythm of life. My life stood still. What next? I asked myself. The next morning, I boarded a bus to South Africa with a quiet urgency, holding on to hope like a fragile wine glass. The journey was so long. Then I finally reached the hospital. I saw my mother in a hospital bed. Her eyes were filled with tears, yet she could only smile and tell me she would be okay. When I heard her words, I believed her. I had hope for healing, but I witnessed the opposite. Hope has a gentle way of protecting us, even when reality is preparing us for goodbye. Baragwanath Hospital in Johannesburg will never be the same again. I remember the long corridors, the smell of disinfectant, the distant sounds of machines, and the feeling of my heart beating louder than my footsteps. Daily, I would walk in, see the woman who had given me life, lying on a hospital bed, fragile and still. The sight was unfamiliar. Mothers are meant to stand, to move, to comfort, not to lie helpless while their children search for strength. My body felt weak, and I was helpless. My mother's hands were wrinkled, the same hands that once braided my hair, held my school books, and wiped my tears every time I cried. Now, those same hands rested quietly, waiting for mine. A few minutes later, I gathered the courage to walk to her and smile. I even bathed her, massaged her wrinkled hands and belly, smiling while my heart trembled. Perhaps it was all the lessons she had planted in me when I was young, the small rituals of prayer, words of encouragement, the belief that faith could carry us through anything. In that hospital room, her teachings became my foundation. Whenever she whispered that she felt overwhelmed, I held her hand and prayed softly as if heaven was just beyond the ceiling. I massaged her arms, her shoulders, her hands, repeating gently words of healing, even as her eyes drifted into sleep. Time moved strangely in that room. Minutes felt like hours, yet days slipped away quietly. One morning, my mother asked to see me. There was a calmness about her that I can't fully explain. She asked me to hold her hand and pray. Then, with a voice that was soft but confident, she released blessings over my life. She gave me words to carry to my siblings. The messages filled with love, unity, and strength. It was as though she was wrapping invisible gifts around us all, one sentence at a time, and then gentle, she took her last breath while her hand was still in mine. That moment etched itself into my memory. 4 years have passed, yet her image remains vivid. The hospital bed, the quiet light, the silence that followed. A part of me felt numb, as though the rock I had leant on for years had quietly collapsed. Loss is a strange thing to explain. Only those that experience it can understand. Grief arrived not as a storm, but as a deep ocean. In that moment, I whispered a final prayer to God and released her soul to peace. As if loss had not already visited enough, tragedy struck again in the years that followed. My three brothers' lives were taken from them, two in South Africa and one in Zimbabwe. Each loss felt like a chapter torn from my heart. I cried like a child, searching for the comfort only my mother used to give. The voice that once calmed and comforted me was now a memory. All that I held close was gone. Who will I be without them? In the midst of it all, my own little family in Botswana grew even closer. Siblings showed us love and support. We cried together, prayed together, and hoped for better days. Sisters from church stood with me in prayer. A friend in Ireland, a doctor friend in the United Kingdom. Pastors and evangelists held hands, and prayers were spoken without ceasing. My dear husband showed me love. In the midst of all the pain, he stood more than a husband. He stood in the gap of a father and a brother. He became my firm support and got a solid foundation. He stood and spoke life in every situation, but healing, I learned, does not come in a single moment. It arrives slowly. Like sunrise, I surrendered my pain to God and allowed the process to begin. In that season of mourning, something unexpected was born, the author within me. Words became a refuge, therapy, and my link back to light. My husband stood beside me, encouraging me to speak positive affirmations, even when they felt foreign on my lips. It was too hard to believe that I could smile again after all the tears, pain, and brokenness. But words gave me hope again. Out of grief came creation. I wrote a children's book, Happy Kids Pocket Guide, a collection of positive affirmations dedicated to children across the world. Pages where I was pouring healing into young hearts, of giving others the encouragement I once needed. The book grew beyond what I imagined, reaching different languages and cultures, preserving voices and identities. What began as personal healing became a gift shared with many across nations. While I quietly wrestled with pain behind closed doors, a journey of resilience and reinvention was taking shape within me. Personal growth was something I gave my life to. I kept learning from many leaders across the globe, Dr. Terry Wright Trent being one of them. She became my role model. I thank the day I clicked a follow button to learn more about her journey. I was charged up way beyond my expectations, and I knew my life was headed for better. I refused to give up. I had to redefine the status quo. And today I can boldly say I am the girl that stood in pain and saw endless possibilities. I refuse to let my background define me. As I look ahead, I'm filled with gratitude. When I think of my mother now, I do not only remember the hospital bed. I remember her wrinkled hands, the hands that carried me long before I could walk on my own. Those hands still guide me, even in their absence. They remind me that love does not end, it transforms. And in every page I write, in every child who finds confidence through my words, I feel her presence gentle, proud, and eternal. On the journey I walked in pain, I learned there is beauty in brokenness. I experienced it firsthand, but still I say never will it replace grief. May the souls of my mother, father, and siblings rest in peace. When I look back, I do not see only the pain. I look at myself in the mirror and see a woman shaped by the fire, but softened by grace. I see a journey that did not break me, but defined me. My story is not one of the perfection, but one of persistency. While I carry memories of loss, I owe it to myself to welcome new beginnings, standing strong without losing hope and gentleness, allowing my life to continue whispering this line yet again. Even after the the sky finds a way to clear. So I move with an attitude of gratitude. I rise high and tall, excellently so, softly, steadily, and with hope still intact. While life may be brutal at times, I urge you, keep going. Purpose starts in every heart. But when you give up early, you will never know you're called to bring solutions on earth. Imagine giving up when many rely on you for solutions. Giving up is not an option. Dare to dream and watch yourself go beyond glass ceilings. You belong at the top. Take the ladder and climb. Guide your heart. Protect your peace. It is not selfish but necessary. Stand firm without becoming hard. The journey of resilience and reinvention demands that we move with clarity, patience, self-care, and self-awareness. It's deeply personal. As I close this chapter, I wish you all the best. Win always. Yes, it's possible. Once again, my name is Zwelihle Banks Nsiiwa, and it was a joy to read this chapter that I contributed to the anthology Resilient and Reinvention, titled She Walked Barefooted into Her Destiny. Thank you.